What's up everybody, it's Popcross Studios here, and today I am completely ripping off LavenderTowne's format. And for anyone who's not familiar with LavenderTowne, you should definitely go check out her videos. Her videos are a huge inspiration on this channel and the way I do my stuff on here. It's all great, and one of her most popular series is called Blank as Cute Girls. Like, she just takes a whole bunch of different kinds of things and turns them into cute girls. And I've been wanting for a while to do a video where I take horror movie icons and turn them into cute girls. And after seeing the It 2 trailer, I was just like, okay, I gotta do this now. I was planning on waiting to do it till around Halloween, but I was just really feeling it right now. I've been wanting to do a video that emphasizes the fact that I'm very inspired by LavenderTowne's videos, so I was like, okay, let's just do this now. And I had a lot of fun with this video. I did some experimenting with my coloring later on, but it was also a bit of a challenge because I'm not really good at like cute poses. Because I mostly draw superheroes and monsters, I'm all about the dynamic poses. So all the poses that I have locked into my head that I naturally go with are all kind of like leaping, charging, attacking, swinging a fist, swinging a foot. So this was kind of a fun challenge, making like a cute-ish pose. I looked at some of LavenderTowne stuff, I looked at some like pinup art style stuff, and I found some things that I really like. This one I thought was particularly fun because it's almost like the balloons are helping her balance a little bit. Maybe she might be off her axis a little bit, like if this character was actually standing there, she might fall over. But I thought this was a nice, cute pose. I also love the hair on this one. That's just color-wise, I really like that kind of gradient of a yellowish color to a really vibrant orange. And I think that's really nice. And for this, I mentioned later on I'm gonna change up my coloring style a bit, but for this first one, I just went with my usual style. Do a bit of rough shading at the start, then do cell shading. I put a bit more cross-hatching in, as I've been doing more and more lately, but then I think I do one more layer of cell shading, and then a layer of lighting and a layer of rim lighting. All my usual stuff, but I will switch it up a little bit later in the video. And I think this one is a nice, cute start, but the reason I wanted to switch it up after this was it just felt a little bit too clean. I wanted to try some rougher brushes, make it a little bit edgier, scratchier looking. Even though I'm making these characters cute, they do have a base in horror, so, you know, I wanted to rough it up a little bit. But here's what the first one looks like. Now for this next one, admittedly between this drawing and the last one, I stepped away and did some rough drawings, just some different pose work just to figure out some different ideas, and I like what I ended up doing with this one. It's kind of fun. With Freddy Krueger, I tend to think of him as like, you know, he's sassy and a trickster and he's goofy, and I mean, he's really evil, but he's like, you know, kind of sassy trickster type. And I really like this pose. I mean, I did pretty much what's in the reference image that I'm using, except I have her given the peace sign. She's got one hand on her hip. She's got her hips swayed to the side a bit. And I think this is a nice, fun one. This is probably my favorite pose I use of the batch, except maybe the last one. And this one, I really do switch things up when I get into rendering. Here you can see I'm using a pencil brush to ink it instead of one of my usual inking brushes, because I like I said, I wanted to add a bit of a roughness to it, and the pencil, it was kind of fun inking with a pencil instead of with my usual stuff, because if I wanted to really thicken out a line, like an outside line, I had to go over it a few times. But it also meant there was less pressure when I would do one line. If I didn't do it totally perfectly, that was okay, because I was probably adding a bit more, and it was supposed to look a little bit rougher anyway. So when I look at all of these pieces at the end, I don't really know which I like better. You'll have to let me know. Do you like the cleaner, more inked, like what I usually do? Or do you like this one and the next one I do some more rougher kind of stuff? You can also see with the coloring, I'm having to do something different, because usually I just paint bucket in the colors, but because the lines are kind of rough, they're not totally closed off, so the paint bucket just spilled out across the whole canvas. So I'm have to actually go in and color it by hand, which means I'm not doing much of a gradient, so that element which is usually in my work isn't there. So this one does end up switching it up a decent amount. When I get into the cell shading, I go back to one of my usual kind of brushes. I still try to rough it out a little bit. I don't know if this mesh of the rougher brushes and the really clean brushes works, but again, this is me kind of experimenting a bit. I'm almost tempted to re-render this drawing in my usual style and see which way I like it better, but for the purposes of this video, I'm happy enough with it as it is. So let's take a final look at the version of cute Freddy Krueger. Now with this one, you can actually see me roughing out the pose a little bit more. I didn't totally know what I wanted out of this one going into it. I had some pictures of Harley Quinn up on my other screen, getting some inspiration from her, just because I was thinking, like, she's always got that hammer. Jason's always got, well, not always, but he's got, you know, in this reference image I've got of him, he's got a machete, and that's a pretty iconic weapon of his, so I was thinking, like, you know, have the character leaning or holding the machete behind their back, and I like the pose that I ended up coming up with. This is probably my least favorite of the batch in this video, but I still think it's a kind of fun one. But part of the problem is it's hard to do anything particularly interesting and cute with the face because it's all covered with a mask. I made the eye holes bigger so that I could give her bigger, cute eyes, but even in doing that, her eyes aren't that big. I also try to put two round kind of red circles on the cheek areas of the mask as if the mask is blushing a little bit to try and cuten it up a little bit, but that doesn't totally end up working. I think the pigtails are probably the cutest part of this one, but then even the pose, it doesn't lean so much towards cute as more of like, I don't know, I'm sounding like I don't like this one. I do like it, it's just my least favorite of the batch. And as you can see, I'm doing the same kind of rendering that I was doing with the last one, inking it all with the pencil brush, and then I'm doing a bit more cross-hatching on this one as well, which I like that I did that here. I want to try that more on some other stuff. Maybe I'll experiment with that off the channel so you don't have to see me experimenting as much in the videos, and you can see me just doing good stuff that I've tested out. But I think it's also kind of fun for me to, you know, mess around on the channel so you can see my work process and see me learning, because that's, you know, watching other people learn is a good way to learn yourself. So then with this, like with last time, I can't dye in the colors, so I'm just coloring it all by hand, and then I go in and do the shading. I do something slightly different with this one. I use a different brush, a sort of lighter brush to do the cell shading, and then I like this enough. I used kind of a crayon-y brush. I think it might actually be the same brush that I used for my Spider-Verse piece way back in December, and I really liked that one. I think it worked better on that one than this, but I think this does, that brush has a nice texture to it. So anyway, let's take a look at how this one turned out. Alright, now for this last one, admittedly I'd wanted to do the alien from Alien as a cute girl, but I know some really hardcore horror fans consider that a sci-fi movie more so than a horror movie, so I was like, okay, let's go with something else, and I decided to go with Jigsaw, specifically because of the tricycle. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I had to draw a bike at work the other day, and I realized that I'm really terrible at drawing bikes. It's never something that really comes up for me, so I was like, okay, let's challenge myself. Let's do it in a video on this channel. And I mean, I have a reference image up, and I think it turns out decently well. There's some problems with it, like logistically, the pose I have her in doesn't totally work because her foot is extended all the way down and she's standing on it, but the pedal would have to be all the way to the bottom position. You know what I mean? That might not have made sense the way I described it, but I would like it well enough. And you can see with the inking here, I go back to my usual brushes, but I'm kind of inking it like it's a mesh between the first style I went with and the second, where I'm doing the thicker, normal outlines in a less textured brush, but I'm also doing some cross-hatching, and I think this turns out kind of nicely. I might want to try doing some videos where I just draw some stuff with no colors at all. And I mean, I really like coloring things. It's my favorite part of the process, besides maybe the roughing stage where you're figuring out the pose and everything. But I've been liking adding some cross-hatching to my work lately, and I think it would be better to like spend more time on that and do a video where I just do white and black, just inks. And it might be a fun experiment, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But now that we're in the coloring stage, you can see I do something very different with this one. I only used like brushes that are imitating paint brushes and like real life style paint brushes, and this was a bit of a challenge because they're a lot harder to control, but that's also one of the upsides of them, because you get more natural detail and texture that the brush is just almost seems like it's doing what it wants at some parts, so you get a bit of detailing that you're not really doing on purpose. The brush is just making it happen, and that was kind of nice, but also I'm someone who likes to really have control over the stuff that's going on, so it was a bit stressful, but I do like the final result. So here's what it looks like. Alright everybody, thank you all so much for watching another episode of Popcross Studios. This is the home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube, and again, if you don't already watch LavenderTowne's videos, please go check them out. They're absolutely fantastic. I love the format, I love her art, it's really great, and that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.